Welcome back to PhD Completion. This is a 10-part series on the mistakes that you can make or not make that can derail your success in graduate school. Mistake number 3, being unprofessional or being disrespectful to your advisor or committee members. The most important relationship in graduate school is the advisor, the mentor, the chair of your dissertation. It's the difference between getting your degree and not getting your degree. Your advisor can be your advocate or not. Plain and simple, your advisor can make you or break you. It's up to you. Fact. Your advisor controls your future in that they have to write recommendations for you. They provide the funding for you to go through graduate school. They control your paycheck. They tell you about career opportunities or not. Keep that in mind. If you are struggling about how should I deal with my advisor, should we be friendly? It's more important to be professional than it really is to be friendly. You have friends. Your advisor, quite frankly, is not your friend. And sometimes when students tell me that, oh, you know, I get into an argument with my advisor, blah, 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 I'm thinking to myself, how do we even get into an argument with our boss? What's the point of that? That can't help you in any way graduate. If they think that you're being disrespectful to them, you're done. That's why if you're even struggling about how should I manage this relationship, err on the side of treating it like a job, treating your advisor like he or she is your boss. And though some people say, oh, we're supposed to be colleagues, this, that, okay, sure, those are words on paper, but I'm telling you the real deal. If you struggle on how to interact with your advisor, I suggest you treat your advisor in a professional manner and you'll be okay. Reality check. A good advisor is someone who will bolster your career. A bad advisor and a bad relationship, you'll start seeing roadblocks. You'll start seeing people in the department not wanting to work with you. You'll find delays. You'll find unread emails, missed opportunities, etc. I cannot stress how important the relationship with the advisor is and the committee members. Treat each interaction in the same manner as in a professional relationship. No one can complain that you're too professional versus someone could complain that he or she doesn't know how to act in a professional setting. He or she acts like it's a joke. They're not a serious student. That's really the kiss of death in graduate school. Be professional, be prepared, and be proactive. How to build a powerhouse advisor relationship. I remind you about graduate school. It's a business. It is not just school, show up when you feel like it. Oh, I'm sick. I can't. Let's face it. If this was a job, people go to jobs when they're sick, when they're tired, when they don't want to. Figure out what's important to you. One is to respect your advisor's time. Show up on time. And if you're not going to show up on time, be sure to cancel. Send an email, not after you miss the meeting, but before you miss a meeting. Be mindful of their schedule. Come prepared when you have a meeting with your advisor. By all means, bring something to write with. I can't imagine when students just show up at my door without anything to write with. I'm thinking to myself, what are we doing here? I know you want something. You know you want something. So it's important to at least pretend like you value what I have to say and you're going to write it down because it's only going to build frustration if you come and ask me the same question that you came and asked me last week. Then that says, I don't care about what you have to say. I didn't even care to write it down. It's important to come prepared with an agenda, come with key questions that you need answers to, and come with a polished draft if you have a draft. It's important to be willing to get feedback from your advisor. If you can't take criticism, graduate school might not be the place for you because most of what graduate school is to fix this, work on that. No, that's not right. No, let's try something different. This isn't working. Blah, blah, blah. It is rare. Oh, that was fantastic. That is so beautiful. Wow. Isn't that wonderful? If you need all of that praise, then you probably need mom and dad to just, clap every time you're able to stand and recite your name. Grad school, that's not it. Most of it is revise and resubmit. Revise, write, edit, revise, and resubmit. Write, edit, revise, and resubmit. And then when you're finished with this meeting that you have now showed up on time, it's important for you and for your purposes to follow up. Follow up with an email like a boss. Send a recap of the meeting because your advisor won't remember everything that you all talked about, that you all agreed to, because your advisor has other students beyond you. And so you're writing this email for yourself and to cover yourself and let the advisor know how you have acted on the feedback. Treat it like a business and treat the relationship like a boss and an employee. It's important to take control of the meetings. As I said, bring the strategy that keeps the meeting going forward. I've had advisors say, well, I'm the boss. I get to set the meeting, I get to set the agenda. And I get it. I say, great, fantastic. If your advisor says, I'm in charge, I set the agenda, you have to. It is your responsibility to say, I totally agree, but I have questions. So, when in your agenda do I get my questions answered? Do I come on a different day? Do I get them answered at the end of the meeting or at the beginning of the meeting? Or do we need a separate meeting to get my questions answered? If you cannot say that, if you cannot advocate for your own professional career, then graduate school might not be for you. Because even though your boss sets the agenda, you need to speak up and advocate for yourself to keep this process moving forward. Show them that you're serious and they'll go to bat for you. But if you don't speak up because you think that that is being respectful, they expect you to speak up because they think that you're serious and you're serious about the research and you're serious about getting the PhD, and they expect you to have questions. You cannot possibly have all the answers. That's what they're there for. That being said, if you want help from your advisor, you want help from anyone, quite frankly, it's important to let that person know what you have tried prior to showing up at their door. They need to know that you are at their door because you've tried something prior to showing up. You can't say, I haven't tried anything. I'm just waiting on you to tell me what to do. You're not ready if that's your approach. You have to have tried something. You could have asked the postdoc in the lab. You could have asked your friend. You could have Googled it. You could have chat GPT it. You could have tried something prior to showing up at your advisor's door. It's important to let them know what have you tried first on your own because you're building to become an independent researcher. You can't be too independent if you're not even willing to try something. As I said earlier, it's important that you are respectful to your advisor, but it doesn't mean that you should be a doormat either. I also said that you need to advocate for yourself, for your needs and your wants in order for you to graduate. That being said, this relationship is a two-way street. You actually do have some value that you bring to the research. You bring research ideas, you bring the labor to the process. And I want us to not get fooled into thinking that this is, some of us get lost in this is my idea and my name should go first on a publication. Now, here is the basic rule about whose name should go first, because sometimes graduate students think, I'm doing all the work. Why isn't my name first? Because technically, unless it is your idea, then your name should go first. And sometimes it's the funder, the people who are funding the research. If your advisor is funding you to do the research, and the tradition in his lab is that his or her lab, their name go first, and their name go first. But generally, it's the person with the idea whose name goes first, unless there's a particular order in terms of alphabetical order for the journal article. But think about it, the person who comes up with the big idea, yeah, their name go first, and if you're a graduate student, you are just a pair of hands that are implementing that big idea. So that's why your name doesn't go first. Think about it. When you become a faculty member and you come up with big ideas and you hire some graduate students, can you imagine your graduate students saying, I think my name should go first because I'm doing all of the work? Yeah, you might be doing all of the work, but you didn't come up with the idea. I could get anybody in this lab to do what you're doing. If that's the case, then that should also tell you this is why your name should not go first, because what you're contributing is just the labor and not the intellectual property. I just hope that that's helpful to somebody. Also, I have to say that some people have great advisors and other people don't. And you have to think about what happens if you don't have a great advisor. And I don't even mean great advice. If your advisor signs off on your documents, if your advisor replies and edits your work or gives you feedback, Great, fantastic. That might not be the ideal advisor, but it's good enough. It's good enough because sometimes we're looking for a friend when we really need an advisor. If your advisor signs the form that he or she or they need to sign, well, they've done their job. If they provide feedback on your proposal, they've done their job. If they're giving you guidance on the research, they've done their job. Now, perhaps you need guidance on finding a job. Maybe they're not that person. Sometimes you have an advisor or a chair of your committee, and really what you're looking for is a mentor, somebody that you can tell things to and they give you advice about your career because they have your best interests in mind. That's a mentor. An advisor, sign here. These are the rules and regulations. Yeah, great, fantastic. So don't confuse the two and don't hold someone short because you're expecting one, but you're getting the other. If your advisor is doing their job but not being a good mentor, go find a mentor. Your advisor does not necessarily have to be your mentor. If they are not helpful, if they are negative, yeah, you might do have to do a change, but changing your advisor can be difficult, especially if you're in a small department because, people get their feelings hurt, quite frankly. And you are generally tied to that person's funding. So if you drop that person as your advisor, you have to find somebody to fund you, or you write your own check, pay your own way, or find a fellowship. You might think about all of that when you are assessing whether or not to get rid of the advisor. And then if the advisor, you pick that advisor based on the research area and you still want to continue in that research area and they are the expert in that area, finding a change is going to be a problem. So you really have to think hard about switching advisors. That's why it's important to think hard about selecting somebody as an advisor. Before you select someone as an advisor, you might have to talk to their students to say, what's it like to work with Dr. So and so? How picky are they? How much feedback do they give? How much flexibility do they give? How much freedom? Do they pay for you to go to conferences? Do they pay for your publications? Do they have a long-term funding? Do you think that they're actually going to retire within the next year? All of these things matter to you when you're thinking about selecting an advisor. That's why it's important because changing an advisor is really difficult. But if you have to make the change not about the personality of the advisor, even if it's the personality that you can't stand. Make it about the research so that when you leave the advisor, you're trying to find a new advisor. You're saying, well, I've changed my interests in the research and I found a new advisor whose research interests more closely match mine. That's the way that you go. That's the way that you can ease out of it, even if you don't like your previous advisor. It doesn't matter. Make it about the research and you can skate out of the situation rather than making it about a personality. And now he's friends with others in the departments, and now you can't find a new advisor because you've already burnt that bridge. It went up in flames, and here you are left out, having to think about changing graduate schools and programs rather than just finding a new advisor in the same department. It's important to advocate for yourself, and as I say, manage the number of battles that you're willing to fight on a regular basis. When you're thinking about finding a new advisor, let's say, for example, it's getting really rough and you don't feel that you can make it down the road with the current advisor, I strongly recommend that you don't burn the bridge. You can't afford the bridge. You can't afford to put it up in smoke unless you are thinking about switching institutions. And even so, within your field, within that same expertise, the area of research, it is a pretty small group of people. Given that only 2% of the population actually get a PhD, you all run in the same circles, so you can't afford to burn the bridge and still get a PhD, burn the bridge and still get an EDD. I just want to make that clear. You got to think about future jobs, future funding, networking. It all traces back to your advisor. So if you're going to leave, make it about the research. Thinking about leaving the advisor, does your funding come from your advisor? If your advisor is providing food on your table, figure out what happens when I leave that advisor. Believe me, your check will stop as well. So before you leave, you have to find new funding before you depart this lab or this environment, this funding source. Also, are you past the proposal? Because thinking about switching advisors after you have defended a proposal, you will actually have to defend another proposal. Find someone who is willing to take a student who is late. That's considered late in your academic career. Everybody wants to know what the heck happened. Why are you thinking about switching advisors so late in your program? That being said, if you're going to switch, you better switch early because switching late, everybody is going to wonder what happened. Are they really the problem? I already said that you have to, part of life is figuring out how to pick your battles. If everything is a battle, if you've noticed the pattern in your life is to get into something with somebody all the time, people are frustrating you left and right. Well, is it really your advisor or is it really you who can't figure out how to control your temper, who always have to be right? Is that you or is that your advisor? And if your advisor always needs to be right, what difference does it make to you? Stay focused on what you came to get. You came to get a PhD. You didn't come to be the right person at the right time to prove that they're wrong and da da. Really do that on somebody else's dime because you're focused on getting your degree. If it is bad, plan your exit. I'm not telling you something that I didn't tell a student. I had a student one time, she wasn't at my institution, she was just one of my coaching students. And so she wanted to switch her advisor, and I gave her the same advice that I'm giving you. And I also told her to plan her exit, to identify somebody. This is all before she leaves, or even inform this person that she's leaving. Find somebody who's going to fund you, and who would be willing to take you on, and to have a discussion with them. You're going to have a discussion with them as an A, do you have long-term funding to possibly fund me for the next 2 years? I'm thinking also you got to do your homework about this person. What's their research area? Can you switch your research topic to their research area? Can you add, if you are been doing research X with your old advisor, and now this person does Y research, can you do X and Y? And do they have funding to support X and Y? Identify somebody, have a conversation with that person, have a conversation with that person's students, have an exit plan. So once they let you know that, oh yes, okay, I have an opening, I have funding, and I've had you in my class before. I noticed that you are a hard worker, blah 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 blah. Then yeah, you can get out and leave and let your old advisor know that you're interested in working on why. And Dr. So and so, she is an expert in why, and she has funding for the next 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is. And I would really like to work with Dr. So and so. But if the problem is not your advisor, if the problem is you, then on campus, there's always counseling services center where you get to work on you to fix you, to fix you so that you can focus on what's the most important thing to you. If the most important thing for you is to get your degree and get out and to find your freedom to do whatever research you want to work on at your own pace, to publish or not publish, to do whatever it is you want to do, then fix you. Part of your fees in graduate school is paid for services like the counseling services center, the gym, all of that. You already pay for it anyway, so why not go and get free therapy? Hey, it'll work. Either way, if you have to, if this person doesn't have funding for you and you realize I actually have to stick it out with this person, then it's important for you, as I said, if you can't figure it out, at least be straight professional with them. And if you have been lax, have been disrespectful prior to having listened to this video, you can always turn a corner with your advisor. Your advisor might not know that you drank the Kool-Aid or whatever it is. You listen to the video. Who knows? It doesn't matter. They always can, if they have to write recommendations for you, imagine them writing. In the beginning, it was really difficult, but in the middle of the year or some, I don't know what happened, but They actually turned a corner and became very studious and very professional, and they really have changed the direction that they were going in. Imagine that your advisor writes that recommendation for you and you get your doctorate. Stay focused on what you came to graduate school for. I doubt that you came to graduate school to get into a whole pissing match with somebody that you barely know, with your boss, somebody who's putting food on the table, paying the rent, etc. It's important to stay focused and get what you came for. So the bottom line is that your advisor or your chair of your dissertation committee, or sometimes the person is your mentor, isn't just a professor. They are your biggest asset or your worst obstacle. I recommend that you handle that relationship like your future depends on it, because it does. And as I said, that person does not have to be all things and everything to you. Your advisor can be the person who signs off on your documents, signs off on the milestones that you progress throughout your academic career. If they're not a good mentor, okay, so find a mentor. Go find a mentor. And if you can't find a mentor, let's say you find a mentor, but the mentor is not a sponsor. So a sponsor is a person who talks good about you, who promotes you, who puts you forward when you're not even in the room. Maybe you need a sponsor and a mentor and an advisor. So what? It takes a village. Find your tribe, find the people to support you. Handle those relationships, because nobody does it alone. No one. Thank you again. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more valuable tips on how to succeed in graduate school. Feel free to share your questions, your experiences in the comments below. Get questions, contact us at phdcompletion.com. We're dedicated to helping you achieve your success.